Bismillah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Medina Arabic Reader, Book 1, as taught in Islamic University of Medina. Just to clarify, there's some confusion. This Medina Arabic Reader is exactly the same as the Medina Book 1. But what they've done is they've simplified it by translating the instructions and exercises, making the pages bigger, adding color, and splitting Book 1 into two books. So it's Medina Arabic Reader 1. That's lessons 1 to 10 of the old or the classic Medina Arabic book, Medina Book 1. And then Medina Reader Book 2 goes on to give you the lessons from 11 onwards. So it's the same book, same lessons, same vocab, just they've reformatted the book. Just for those that might be a bit confused. Okay, we're going to continue with lesson number 9, a very important lesson, looking at the subject of na'at and man'ut, if you remember, which is how you describe a noun. For example, I've got the pen in my hand. I want to say a new pen. قلم جديد, right? And because the pen is masculine, the describing word has to also be masculine. There are 4 things that it has to agree on that we spoke about. Number 1, gender. If it's a masculine object or person or noun, you have to use a masculine adjective to describe it. Number 2, it has to agree on case ending, meaning if it's got a dhamma case ending, then the adjective has to also have a dhamma case ending. قلم جديد, right? So بقلم جديد, بقلم جديد has B before, makes it a kasra ending. So that's number 2, case ending. Number 3, if it's definite or indefinite, that's what we'll cover in today's lesson. And number 4, when it's singular or plural, that's something which is covered in later lessons because we only covered nouns which are singular. We haven't studied number yet. So it's case ending, gender, number, and definite or indefinite to summarize. Remember those 4 because they're going to be very important for the lesson. Okay, let's have a look at, where are we? The lesson, today's lesson. Here's today's lesson. As always, we'll go straight to the grammar first. And then after we look at the grammar for the lesson, we'll look at the vocab for the lesson and then read the text and do the exercises. Together we're going to combine the exercises in lesson number 9 because it's one lesson. We covered half the grammar last week. We'll cover the second half this week, inshallah, part B, as it says here. So it goes, in this part we learn the following. What do we learn? In this part we learn, number 1, adjective qualifying a definite noun, right? Which is, how do you know the noun is definite first of all? A definite noun means it has alif and lam at the beginning of it, right? Al-kupu, the cup, right? Al-Arabiyatu, the Arabic language, right? At-ta'ira, it's got alif and lam at the beginning. That makes it definite, i.e. specific. And that means the, right? As opposed to a or an. So what does it tell you? It goes, أين المدرس الجديد? Because the noun that's been qualified, which is called the man'ut or the mawsuf, it has alif and lam. The adjective has to also have an alif and lam, and that's it, as we discussed it last week. The second grammar point in this lesson is something called, which is here, relative pronoun. What's a relative pronoun and how is it used? Those are 2 things that we're going to answer now, inshallah. Relative pronoun is, one of them is alladhi. Alladhi, alladhi is when it refers to, number 1, a human being is translated as who. If it refers to an animal or thing, it's translated as which. So this is called relative pronoun in English grammar. In Arabic it's called ismun mawsul. Ism, it's a noun. Mawsul, it relates, it connects 2 things, right? It connects something to the noun. Okay, what does it do though? How do you use it and what's its function? The main use is it's like an adjective, which is why the author puts it in the same place, right? The author, he organizes this book in a very, very structured way. So a relative pronoun, what does it do? It limits and restricts or further defines the noun. So if I said ar-rajulu, the man, tawilun, right? the man is tall, there could be 5, 6, 7, 8 men, right? So you have the man is tall. Okay, so but there's 1, and there's 2, and there's 3. So there's 3 tall men. Which one am I speaking about? I'm going to specify it more. الذي خرج من المسجد الآن. The one that just left from the masjid. Okay, so a relative pronoun further allows you to define and limit the scope of that noun to make it even more specific, right? So in the sense that you're describing it more. That's what it does. Again, if it's a person, you translate it as who. If it's a thing, you translate it as which. Here's an example of a relative pronoun and the sentence that follows it. الرجل الذي خرج من المسجد الآن تاجر شهير. The man who just left from the masjid is a famous merchant, right? So let's just break down the sentence a little bit, because what you have, why it's called a relative pronoun, what you have is you can take this out. You got a sentence. الرجل تاجر شهير. The man is a famous merchant. الرجل is still the subject, right? It's the subject of the sentence, is who we're speaking about. In Arabic, that's called the mubtada. And تاجر شهير is really the khabar, or is the information about him, right? But you want to say more. So what do? You insert a relative pronoun. الذي خرج من المسجد. The one who left, that's a verb, right? And in it is the word he. He left. من المسجد, from the masjid, takes a kasra because of min. الآن, now, is a famous merchant. So going back, الذي, number 1, is called a relative pronoun. That's the first thing, that's the name of it. In Arabic, that's called ism mawsul. Number 2, it's translated as who, if it's a person or people, and which for things. Number 3, this is only for masculine people or objects. الرجل, right? Or الكتاب الذي على المكتب للمدرس. So you say the book is for the teacher. The book, okay, what book? There's 5 books. We're in a library, there's loads. What book? الكتاب الذي على المكتب للمدرس. The book which is on the desk belongs to the teacher. Okay, so that's when it's masculine. What when it's feminine? When it's feminine, it's التي. Okay, التي. الذي for masculine, التي for feminine. That's the second grammar point. 1, 2, tick. Let's go to what's the next grammar point that he mentions? Or he gives another example, first of all. The man who went out of the mosque. You can't see the English for that, can you? Okay, let me bring it. The man who went out of the mosque just now is a famous merchant. That's the translation of the last sentence. Another example is with the house, and this time he's using an object. And to show you, the translation goes from who to which. البيت الذي أمام المسجد للإمام. The house which is in front of the masjid belongs to the imam. So that's the second grammar point. Third grammar point is, we discussed it in the last lesson because it was mentioned there, is when you have li, and this is a preposition, it's called the harful jar, it's called lam of tamliq, ownership, because there's different types of lam, have different functions. We've done 2 types of lam so far, just to recap. First one is lam of ta'rif. Lam of ta'rif, meaning that lam that shows you something is specific and definite, which is that lam, al, right? Okay, then you have lam of tamliq, which is a preposition. Now the lam of tamliq, that one, it has a function. It makes the word after majrur. The lam of ta'rif, to make something specific or definite, doesn't have a function. Doesn't change the ending. Okay, now the lam is used with a noun having al. The alif of the al is omitted, i.e. dropped. So you have, for example, the word al-imam, as you can see here, the imam, right? What happens when I add lam to that word? What happens? What changes? You have to, look, there's not alif. It's gone. It's gone straight onto the lam. So you say, li imam. Right, lil imam. Another example he gives is al-mudarrisu. What happens when I add lam? Lam, we'll just do it here. The only thing you do here, if you're going to add lam, you just join it like that. You've dropped the alif, and it becomes lil mudarris, and that changes to a kasra because it's harful jar, makes the word afterwards take a majrur case ending. So that's grammar point number 3 for the lesson, or a grammar or a change. Grammar point number 4 is use of the word inda. Firstly, what does it mean? It's the meaning of with, right? The second, so number 1, what it means. Number 2, what's the grammar rule for this word? The grammar rule for this word is that any word that comes afterwards has a e ending, kasra ending. The teacher is, and it with the headmaster. Al-mudarrisu inda al-mudiri, kasra ending. Al-mudarrisu inda al-mudiri. The teacher is with the headmaster. 4, that's the 4 grammar rules for part B. But, and it's a continuation of lesson number 9. Let's have a look at the vocab. We'll read the vocab and then we'll go to the text, highlight the grammar points from the text, and then set homework for the exercises. Have a look at this text. Al-madrasatu thanawiyatu. Al-wazir had. السوق إندونيسيا. الشارع. المكتبة. الآن هناك. المستوصف. المروحة. الكويت. So here's the vocab for the lesson. Read, translated. Let's jump to the lesson and see what we have in the actual lesson. We're going to read the sentences, translate them, and then go on to the, inshallah, go on to the exercises. So, exercise number 1. Let's make this a bit bigger so it's nice and easy to read. أين المدرس? أين المدرس? Where's the teacher? Question. Right? What type of question? Asking for a place. هو في الفصل. He is in the class. وأين المدرس الجديد? Okay, and where's the new teacher? Right? This is a grammar point. It's called nat or man'ut. That's the name, the terminology. Or if you remember the other word, sifa or mawsuf, nat or man'ut. And it has 4 rules. It has 4 rules. It has to agree in gender. So this word is masculine. So the adjective has to be masculine. The noun here is singular. So the adjective has to be singular. The noun is also got alif and lam, which is a point of this lesson. So this has to have alif and lam. You're going to see that throughout. This is just a highlight. Last, masculine, singular, with definite. This is a dhamma case ending. So it has to also have a dhamma case ending. هو عند المدير. He's with the teacher. Inda means with. Al-mudiri. Because of inda, the word takes a kasra ending. It's majrur because of inda coming before. Second set of questions. أين الطالب الجديد؟ ذهب إلى المكتبة. Where's the new student? He went to the library. Next set of questions. Question answer. من ذلك الرجل الطويل الذي خرج الآن من المدرسة؟ Who's that tall man who left, past tense, now من المدرسة, from the madrasa. Right? So the question is, who's the tall man that left from the madrasa? Which one? Who's the tall man? The one that left from the madrasa just now. Who is he? هو المدير الجديد. He is the new headmaster. ومن الولد الصغير الذي خرج الآن من الفصل? And who's the small boy who just left from the classroom? هو ابن المدير الجديد. He's the son of the new teacher. And this is where you can see the case ending changing. In this case, you've got both got dhamma ending. هو المدير الجديد. Here, they've both got a kasra ending. Why? That's the question. Why does it change? What made it change? Based upon the previous lesson that you've already studied, you should remember and recall that Ibn al-Mudir is called Mudaf and Mudaf ilayh. Right? He's the son of the headmaster. What headmaster? The son of the new headmaster. That's what that trains. So we've got mudaf and mudaf ilay. The mudaf ilay is always mudaf ilayhi is always majrur ending. It's always got a majrur ending. Okay, because of that, and it's a noun, the word that describes it has to have the same case ending. It has to agree in 4 things: number, case, gender, and definite, indefinite. So that's the conversation and it continues over here. Have a look. It says, let's get the pen up. لمن تلك السيارة الجميلة? Whose beautiful car is that? هي للمدير الجديد. It's for the new mudir. Again, now we have feminine. The car's feminine, so you describe it with a feminine adjective. As you can see, the Jamila's on there. Okay, so it has to have feminine. Here, again, feminine. It goes back to the car. للمدير الجديد, for the new mudir. لمن هذا الكتاب الكبير? أهو للمدرس? Whose is this big book? Right, لمن, for who? لا هو للطالبة الصغيرة. Whose is this big book? Is it for the new? Is it the teachers? i.e. the huwa goes back to the word book, so it translates as it because it's an object. If it was a person, it would say he. لا, no, it's huwa للطالبة الصغيرة, for the small student. Here you have a kasra ending, so this has to be a kasra ending as well. The nat has to have the same case as the man'ut. Here you have, this is a feminine word, the man'ut, so the nat has to also be feminine. Number 2, here the nat is got definite, alif and lam, and here it's also got alif and lam, but because it's got the lam at the beginning of it that shows lam of ownership, you delete the alif as we mentioned in the previous lesson, and that's what makes it majrur in this case. Okay, so they're both specific, i.e. the small student as opposed to a small student. What does definite indefinite mean? Definite is when you specify it by adding that at the beginning. Indefinite is when you have a or an. Right? An apple, any apple. Not specific, not identified, not the apple, now it becomes specific. Last 2 questions and answers. أين الملعقة الصغيرة? Where's the small spoon? هي في الكوب, it's in the cup. أين الكرسي المكسورة? Where's the broken chair? هو هناك. Another very important word, هناك, over there. Right, far, it's over there, هناك. Right, هنا, here, هناك, over there. هنا, here, هناك. You can say it's over there, but this word هناك can also be used to describe something. So هناك, for example, كتاب هناك, مسجد هناك, فندق, there's this, you're describing, there's a hotel, there's a masjid. That's lesson number 9, the grammar, as well as the vocab, as well as the text. Now, for the first 2 exercises, or the main exercises that you're going to have to do for homework, is the reading and the writing. And again, the writing is really important to get handwriting practice. Read these sentences, write the sentences from self-dictation, then once you've got them, translate them into English, from English translate them back into Arabic. And there's 10 sentences in total. Inshallah, we'll read them out. Then you're going to, inshallah, do this exercise as part of your homework and to increase and to improve your writing as well as your reading practice. Number 1, الطبيب الجديد في المستشفى والطبيب القديم في المستوصف. The other task you can do is to evaluate what you know and try to explain the order of the words, why they end, how they end. So the second word, al-jadidu, ends with a marfu case, a dhamma case, because it's a man'ut, it's a nat, description of something which is marfu. Fil mustashfa, the mustashfa doesn't have a kasra because it ends in a alif maqsura, and the alif maqsura, you can't add the kasra on it. What tabib al-qadimu, again, qadimu ends in a dhamma because it is a nat that's describing a man'ut, which is also marfu. Fil mustawsifi, al-mustawfi takes a kasra ending because it comes after a preposition. put it together now. The new doctor is in the hospital, and the old doctor, the former doctor, is not. The old doctor is in the mustawsaf, which is a small clinic, like a GP surgery, but a little bit bigger. Number 2, القلم المكسور على المكتب. The broken pen is on the desk. المروحة الجديدة في الغرفة الكبيرة. Here you have both examples. Example of it being a مرفوع case. Examples of it being a مجرور case. اللغة العربية سهلة. الولد الطويل الذي خرج من الفصل الآن طالب من الكويت. أنا في المدرسة الثانوية. ذهب الرجل الفقير إلى الوزير. جلس الطالب الجديد خلف حامد. Again, خلف, and the word after is مضاف إليه. We did that in the previous lesson. السكين الكبير حاد جدا. The big knife is really sharp. جدا is to show degree of emphasis or intensity or no. So that's the read and translate tasks. The rest of the tasks are for you to do at home. Fill in the gaps with the following in the following sentence with the adjective given in brackets. Add al if necessary, meaning if the mawsuf or the man'ut that you're describing has al, then the adjective also has to have al. So for example, you've got the word jadidun in brackets. Ayn al mudarrisu. That word you have to put in this space and make any changes that are necessary. Meaning, if the word you're describing has alif and lam like it does here, then you'd have to add alif and lam before you write it. And what you're going to say is أين المدرس الجديد. أين المدرس الجديد. So you had alif and lam in that case. التاجر something في السوق. The كبير means big. This has alif and lam, which is the man'ut, the word being described. So the word kabir has alif and lam as well. And so on and so forth. We'll do the last one together. أنا طالب قديم. I'm an old student. Right? Because طالب doesn't have alif and lam, that's it. You just put that word, write it down there. It's exactly the same. So that's the gap fill exercises, inshallah. The exercise after the gap fill exercise is a reading exercise, meaning contemplating what happens here when you use the word alladhi, right? How it functions basically. So it's just reading the sentences, looking at alladhi, seeing how it links the main links back to the subject. الطالب الذي خرج من الفصل الآن من Indonesia. The student is from Indonesia. Which student from Indonesia? The one that just left the classroom now. It's asking you to read the example and make sentences on the same pattern. What's the pattern here? You have Al-Kitabu Saghirun, the book is small. What book? Alladhi ala al-kursi, the one which is on the chair. Al-Kitabu Kabirun, the book is big. What one? Alladhi ala al-maktabi. Right? It's asking you to make sentences with the two. And here's the grammar. Baytun, Jadidun, a new house. The word new is the terminology for that is man'utun, or another word, as you mentioned before, is mawsufun. Na'tun is the adjective. Another word for the adjective is the sifatun. Okay, so you choose. Na'tun man'ut is what the book uses. It's probably better to stick to that as a description. Let's have a look at the previous exercise, the read and write, which was also in lesson number 9. Muhammadun talibun qadimun. Can you translate that sentence? And once you can translate it, can you do the i'rab of it? Meaning, can you highlight what words what? So the first word is a subject, meaning it's a mubtada. Second word, talibun qadimun, all together. Both those words form the khabar. I just said Muhammadun and stopped. You're like, okay, what about him? Talibun qadimun, he's an old student, he's not a new student. Okay, that word, talibun qadimun, as you can see, it has two words, which means it's two parts. The first part is called the man'ut, the second part is called the nat. Okay, it's the description, the qualifying adjective, it qualifies the noun that it's speaking about. So what about Muhammadun? He's an old student. He's an old student, right? That's talibun qadimun. أذلك الرجل مدرس جديد؟ لا هو طبيب جديد. New sentence. Is that man a new teacher? No, he's a new doctor. هذا درس سهل. This lesson is easy. No, it's not. عباس تاجر شهير. Abbas is a famous merchant. بلال مهندس كبير. الإنجليزية لغة صعبة. أأنت رجل غني؟ Are you a rich man? لا أنا رجل فقير. I'm a poor man. نحن فقراء إلى الله. We need of Allah. أأنت مدرس قديم؟ Are you a teacher? لا أنا مدرس جديد. أحامد طالب كسلان؟ Is Hamid a lazy student? لا هو طالب مجتهد. No, he's a hard working student. القاهرة مدينة كبيرة. القاهرة, which is Cairo, is a big city. The word Medina has two meanings. Al-Medina, since we're on the topic and we're in Medina College, which means obviously Al-Madinatul Munawwara, right? It's an alam, it's a proper noun. You have Madinatun, which is what the translation means, a city, right? So for example, London, Madinatu al-Inglaterra. London is a city of England, right? Is the capital city, Medina. That's the exercises, write those out, and then inshallah in the next lesson we will do the gap fills 2 and 3, as well as the gap fills. We started and we won't do that one. We'll do we'll do the gap fills inshallah in the next lesson. In the meantime, before you keep going forward, make sure you're reviewing the previous lessons, because it's all relative, it all builds one on the other. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. Wa sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.